Hola everyone, welcome to Flexibility Script. Today's episode is going to touch on our hamstrings and improving their mobility and range of motion using a banded movement mobilizations. So banded movement mobilizations end up being able to clear restrictions in our joint capsules. So if you can think of the joint capsule is this flexible membrane that goes over the bone. If you can think of this as my femur and this as my hip, the more freedom there is in this flexible membrane, the easier freedom of movement my femur is going to have as it moves around in all planes of motion. If there's restrictions and tension along this flexible membrane, it's not going to move as well. I'm also going to be dealing with muscle stiffness, like let's say this is a quad and this is a hamstring. So the muscles will also stiffen up due to this lack of mobility at the joint capsule. And if I'm able to clear up the restrictions in the joint capsule, it'll end up clearing up muscle stiffness and sometimes pain associated with that stiffness. So in order to get into the joint capsule and free it up, we need extra tension, which is why we use a band, like a pull-up band, for mobilizing that tissue. To kind of explain that extra tension that's needed, if you can think of our tissue, let's say our hamstrings as being this rubber band, and if you can think of one end of the rubber band being a little thicker and this end being a little thinner. Now I know that it's the same size all around, but let's just use our imagination. So let's pretend this is a thicker end, this is a thinner end, and I go to stretch it. That stretch is only going to go towards the thinnest part of the rubber band. The thinnest part is kind of like the weakest part. It's right where the hamstrings will come and insert along the back of the knee. Which is why when some people stretch their hamstrings, all they feel is the back of their knee, that weaker part of the tissue, that thinner part, and they're not getting into this thicker part, the joint capsule itself. So in order to get to this thicker part, we need extra tension in order to free it up and clear restrictions. And we do that with the band. With the band, there's about two main techniques that you can use when you're doing mobilizations. One's called paper clipping, the other one is just holding, a sustained hold to help create space in the joint and be able to free it up. So paper clipping, I have a little paper clip here as a demonstration. So paper clipping just simply means you're oscillating in and out of tension. So if you can think of a paper clip and how much you have to bend it forward and back before you actually have the paper clip actually have some give and some freedom of motion, think of that as your joint. You're going to be oscillating in and out of tension so that you can end up feeling some freedom the way you would if you were bending a paper clip back, forward, and back before the end of the paper clip has a bit more freedom to it. So that's what we're doing with the band. And like I mentioned earlier, in today's video, it's going to be talking about the hamstrings. So hamstring range of motion and clearing up the hamstrings. I always like to do a little bit of assessment or a test and retest to see if I've actually made a change. I'm going to reposition the camera. I'm probably going to do this a little later today to reposition it. So as long as it doesn't fall. All right, so the hamstrings, range of motion. So if we were to lay on our back, and if we take our hand and we place it right on the small of our back, I'm going to use my right hand here, place it right around the small of my back. Once I lay down, if I straighten both of my legs, I'm just going to take one leg up, and as soon as I feel that lower back start coming into my hand, that's the end point of my hamstring range of motion. I'm going to check the other side too. This side has just a little bit more. They're both pretty equal, which is good. If you do this on yourself and you find that your lower back starts coming into your hand and your leg's not even near 90 degrees, and then one leg is, know that you have an imbalance and you're going to want to address the leg that needs it to create balance and help prevent injury. So that's a way we can check to see where we're at. I'm going to be demoing my left leg since it needs it more. I'm going to reposition the camera. Another thing that can be done is just some simple leg swings. If I was to bring my hands out and I could see just how high, with my active flexibility, how high I can get the leg up. I'm going to bring my hands up here just to see. And my right also has a little bit more than my left. So I'm going to be addressing the left one, and I can check at the end and retest to see if I actually had a change. So this banded movement mobilization, I'm going to be using the band, and I'm setting it up when I do the hamstrings, or this specific release I should say. I'm going to set it up so the band is right around hip level. I'm going to take my leg, I'm going to be placing it through the band, and then the band is going to come right to the very top of the thigh. I'm going to reposition the camera again. Just a heads up. Be sure you guys get the whole thing. Okay, so from here, the band is right around the top of my thigh. My hands are going to go to the floor, and that banded leg is my forward leg. So it's going to lead the way, and I'm going to come until I feel a nice bit of tension from the band. And it doesn't have to be too aggressive, just enough so that you feel the tension and you can comfortably breathe through it. Once you're here, your hands are going to go on the floor, and my goal to oscillate in and out of tension, the paper clipping, is going to be me bending and straightening the knee to full extension. If I'm having difficulty getting into full leg extension, I can place my hands on a ball or box or something to get me up a little bit higher to make it easier for me to bend and straighten the knee. Once I'm here, I can also play with freestyle a little bit, and if I bring my hands towards the outside, it'll end up having a different effect on the tissues I'm affecting on the back of the leg. So when I'm paper clipping, I can be here anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes, just oscillating in and out of tension. As I keep opening up, I'm going to be able to keep getting a little closer to the floor. So if my hands were on a ball, I would be slowly inching my way as everything starts opening up. If my fingertips are on the floor, as I keep opening up, I'm going to find the ability to get my palms to floor is going to be a little bit easier. So once I'm done, I'm going to come off the band here, and it'll usually feel like one leg is a little bit longer than the other. So if I was to go reassess, if I go back to the active flexibility, I think I had my hands set up a little higher. If I bring, there it is. If I bring that leg up, it's just a little higher now than keep my hands straight. It's just a little bit higher than the right now. So it feels a lot more freer. And also tension along the back of the leg, any tightness I felt is also now gone. If I go back down towards the floor, see if I can make this work. Okay. If I go back down and lay down on the floor, my hands can go on the small of my back, and I'll also find that the leg comes up with more ease. I actually think it's a little bit more than the right. Yeah. So it's a nice quick way to test and retest and see if you actually had some change in the tissue, which you should, and try it out, have fun. It can be used pre and post-workout as a cool down, pre-workout to open things up. If you're using it as a part of flexibility training, know that if you open them up, it's really important to go out and use this extra range of motion that you've gained in order to help keep that openness in the tissue and ingrain that new freedom of movement into the motions that you're going into, whether you're deadlifting or practicing splits. If you do it and then go train, you'll have a better effect of keeping that openness and new flexibility. More is to come. I'll be going into videos that show more banded mobilizations. There's a couple other ways to get into the hamstrings. We'll get into the hip flexors and the glutes and the shoulders and lats, and keep working. All right, try it out. Have fun.